Okay, so we are back in just a minute or two. We'll start with our first session. But before that, I think we can just hang around and wait till everyone is ready. Yeah. Actually, we could go through, we could show the logos of our sponsors again, if you could help us out with that, Fredrik. Great. So thank you, Acquia, Ramsalt, Bouvet, Numedia, Fontcom, and me. And I actually say thank you, Lullabut, also, because, Silja, please introduce our next speaker.
Oh, you got me red-handed. Now let's see. I was not prepared for that segue. Our next presenter, our first presenter today, is Cristina Chumillas from Lullabot. And as we just heard, she's from Barcelona in Spain. Cristina was one of the co-organizers of the Admin UI and JavaScript Modernization Initiative. And in this session that we will have here, she will talk about how they are working on the Drupal design system for the Admin UI. So, Cristina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Okay, so I'm gonna share the screen and I'm going to start talking about the present and future of the Drupal Admin UI. Well, she was saying I'm Cristina Chumillas and I'm also core UX maintainer, and yeah, I work at Lullabot from Barcelona. And you can reach me on Twitter or on Drupal.org. I will share my users later. I haven't added them here. But yeah, the most important part is that I'm going to talk about the Drupal Admin UI, what's going on, the present and future. But I would really like to start talking a little bit about the past, because it is important. Where are we coming from? We're coming from a perspective from an experience where developers were creating the admin UI interfaces for site builders, were the first people that started actually interacting with the UI were the people that were creating the pages. So it means that, for example, a huge step that happened in the past is when the Views UI was redesigned for the site builder. That was a huge thing at the moment. And what actually helped is having complex experiences or complex setups through the admin UI. This is a key thing for Drupal and how it actually evolved and how it positioned Drupal and the kind of projects that actually ended up being made by Drupal, because you could do a lot of things through the UI, like SQL requests through the Views UI and a lot of other things. So the key part here was that the focus for this administration user interface was that it was aimed for site builders. But as the time passed, several important roles came up on the sphere, and we ended up having a lot of content editors. But not only content editors, also content managers, because the bigger the project is, the more roles you have, and more important, the more time they spend on the UI once we actually finished the website. Because the moment that we give our project to the client is the one that is going to spend a lot of time on that interface. And we usually don't think about that, or well, we didn't used to think about that. For example, if you have in mind the toolbar that we have right now in Drupal core, the moment that you deliver the project, most of the time the end user is going to end up maybe having custom shortcuts, but the main menu items that the user is going to use are inside either content or maybe structure if the user can go into the taxonomy or can go, I don't know, to administer menus. So as you can see, this toolbar is not thought for content editors, it's thought for site builders. So we need to think on a UI that actually is prepared for someone spending 8 hours of their day doing this content editing task or content managing task, where they actually repeat a lot of the tasks and they need less screens to do so. We need to create this interface that is focused on these new or different workflows, different from the site builders. So I'm going to give just a brief, I'm going to try to explain a little bit of the history for the admin interface, because it is important to know where we're coming from and why are we making some of the calls that we are doing. First, everything started, there were some discussions even before, but most of the important meetings happened during DrupalCamp Vienna in 2017. There were actually two groups at that time that were trying to solve exactly the same problem. On one side, there was a meeting from a few people that decided that they wanted to replace the whole UI with JavaScript. And on the other side, there were several meetings where we decided that we needed to redesign the whole UI. And I'm just giving a clue here. As you can see, I'm emphasizing that we both were talking about the whole UI. And this is Drupal. It is not a small project. So the moment that you want to replace a whole whatever, it's not a small thing. So it's been 3 years after that, and we are still working on this. Spoiler here. So over the time, we started especially with some user studies. We did a survey, a huge survey, card sorting with more than 200 people answering. We did a comparative study, and we get some feedback from here. We actually planned all these during DrupalCon Nashville in 2018. And the feedback that we got here was, wow, surprise, we needed a modern looking UI interface. We all know that. But that was obvious, and that was actually something that made us realize that this UI, user interface, how it looked like, it was super important for the users. So we were coming from Drupal 7 on one side and Drupal 8, as you can see on the other. These two screenshots are from this user interface and almost didn't change. There was a huge effort for redesigning the user interface like 8-10 years ago. That's where 7 came from. But it obviously happened a lot of time ago. And the styles and the trends right now are a little bit different. So this needed to change. Some of the other feedback that we got is that we needed better media management. And we did got media library in core. So this is something that we already improved. Some other feedback that we got is that we needed to simplify the complex editing experience, but which one? Because one of the things that I'm going to talk is like, which is the kind of content that we need to provide a better experience for. Because in Drupal, we have a structured data versus unstructured data, like different kind of content. We can have landing pages. We can have, for example, if you know what's the out of the box or umami project, where we have recipes and we have data that we need to have structured. So it's not the same one thing to the other. So we need different ways to solve the problems that we're facing in there. So for example, where we're talking about these panels. I'm not sure if you remember panels from a while ago. It was a super complex editing experience. And yeah, we end up having layout builder in core. So were we talking about that experience? Or for example, we were talking about editing complex content types where we have paragraphs and nested paragraphs and even nested paragraphs inside that. Or on the other side, the problem that the users were asking is not having these super huge long forms, as we can see here and in a lot of projects, where the solutions going forward, where we actually talking about having a Gutenberg-like solution. Was that the thing where you were actually editing the content live in there? Because I don't know if you know, but Gutenberg, what you're seeing here is not the front-end theme neither. So we had a lot of problems there. Like, for example, how are we going to improve the experience for mobile? How are we going to improve the editing experience on mobile and actually seeing the structured data on mobile? So it was super complex. Something else that came up from the studies is the fear to save. A lot of users actually said that they were super scared from the save button. And one of the reasons was that they couldn't preview the content. So we, at the beginning, we said, okay, let's just go with a Gutenberg-like solution. But when we discussed that solution with the people that were creating the JavaScript new interface, they said, that's super cool, but that's not that easy to build. And then we said, okay, just don't worry, that's a wireframe. We can come up with another idea. And we came up with this idea where we have the preview on one side and the form on the other. But this also was creating new problems because we needed to create all these preview modes. What if it's the coupled side, and then it's even more complex? What if we want to preview a desktop on or a mobile? Or so it was actually giving more problems. Something also that came up on the user study is the fear of losing data. Not sure if you've ever seen this. Is the error that you get when another editor actually changes anything on the content that you're creating or editing. So this fear of losing data is actually something that is already solved in a country module. Christoph created this for this project that it's called autosave form. You can check that also this issue where we're discussing where if we can integrate that on Drupal core. There was a conversation on Seattle last year. And actually this solution already considers concurrent editing. But if we are going to integrate that with JavaScript, there's a lot of work. So it is not in core yet because we need to do some work here. But you already can do that on a project with this country module. Something also that came up during this this study was the need for a content role configuration specific for editors. And this is something that is actually start moving forward. There is an issue, you can see the issue at the bottom, and I will share the slides later on so you can actually see all the links later. So there is this issue to create this editor role for the standard profile. And right now it is blocked because the discussion is, should we have one role or should we actually add two roles? Because now that we are opening the door to create other roles. We should have the content editor role, also the content manager role. So we already have an issue with a batch. It's just that we haven't decided yet which roles we have. But the moment that we have that in core, we will be able to change a lot of things. Going back to what is the main feedback that we got from these surveys and these user studies was the redesign. So we came up with this new design that was going to set the rules for both for the new JavaScript interface and the Drupal theme, because the JavaScript was going to replace page by page. So the new Drupal theme that we needed to create that had to play at the same time with the JavaScript new pages, they should share the same design. So we had to create this new design for Drupal 9. So we ended up creating this new core theme called Claro that I bet a lot of you already have heard that. The goal was to have a new theme, the sooner the better. And then if we were going to replace different pages, it was going to come in the future. But Claro is in core, but it's not yet the default theme because there are big issues like redesigning Views UI or media, the whole media UI. We need to update all these things, and those are the issues that are kind of blocking, or not blocking because they are moving forward, but they are the main issues that we need to solve right now. So the way that we started doing this is basically we just take 7 and we make a fork. Well, we make a clone from 7, and we started replacing a few things like the fields, the colors, and later on we ended up replacing the whole elements that we see right now if we install, if we enable Claro on our project. Something that also we needed to do is to modernize all the front-end developer tools. And there was a discussion about using SAS for the CSS or using post-CSS. We ended up going towards post-CSS because in the future, CSS is going to have a lot of the tools that SAS already has. So post-CSS was the path that we decided that was better for core. So we ended up having this only for Claro, but I'm not sure if you know Olivero, which is the new front-end theme, is also using a lot of this work. And for developing front-end for core, you need all these tools. So we needed to use the same design on both UIs, as I was saying, both to replace 7, and also you can see on the right the new interface that was going to be on JavaScript that actually right now, not sure if you saw the last keynote by Dries for the new initiatives for Drupal 9. And actually, since replacing the whole UI was too big work, it was decided to, instead of that, doing the whole UI, starting just for the menu and creating a new menu with JavaScript. But anyway, we needed to set the same rules and the same design for all of them. So that is why we created this new design system, this new Drupal design system. And for that, we used Figma, which is something super similar to Sketch for designs. But it's like, we could say like a Google Docs for designers, where we actually design together over the same thing. As you can see here, there was a lot of work on buttons and colors. The good thing here is that you can actually have a distributed theme around the wall. And actually, we had people from India, from the US, from different countries in Europe. So it was super important to have these asynchronous conversations because you can have comments like in Google Docs. And it was really useful to just take the work from others and start from scratch from there. Also, the Figma is really useful because whatever you design, a developer can come with a link to that design and just pick the colors, pick the font sizes, and that's super useful. And that was really a key for the designers not having to do more work to set all the specifications for the developers. Something also really cool from Figma, I don't have any shares on Figma, it's just the tool that we decided to use, and it really was useful for us. The good thing about Figma is that it is already integrated with a lot of style guides, external style guides that we are at some point going to end up creating for Drupal. This new Drupal design system also is like, it works with the Storybook, Fractal, Pattern Lab, so we don't have to do that from scratch. And also, you can export a lot of the code for Vue or React or whatever is going to be used on the JavaScript side, and also for the HTML. that the good part of that is that you can have the same component working on several platforms and have several look and feels. And for example, you can have the old one on one side and the new one on the other. And about the admin UI, we talk about the future, what is actually coming, what is planned to come in the future. On one side, and one of the discussions that is going forward, and it is almost there, is that we are going to replace color, or maybe just evolve the color module to actually use a concept that is closer to a palette, where a designer can set a set of colors, and then the site builder can choose whatever the colors work together on a best way. You can choose, instead of the blue, you can choose the green as the accent color, or pink, or whatever color you want to use. On a technical perspective, there is already a patch for that, because you can actually define this palette on CSS with CSS variables, and then you just switch the palette and all the variables change. This is something that it's not in Drupal core, but it's there are some patches to start working on that. Something that is also coming in the future is the dark mode. I'm not sure if you know a little bit about the admin UI, you will know that there is this spin-off theme that is called Jean, that Sasha, one of the designers of the team, created, because as you know, Drupal core is a little bit slow, because you need to be sure that all the accessibility complies, all the things are done on the proper way. So let's say the process are slow. So he started doing this, all these changes on this contrib theme that is called Jean, and you can already install that if you want. And he's already working on the dark mode, and this is coming to Drupal core at some point also. And basically what we are talking about is doing all these customizations to the admin UI. And there was this discussion, here is the link where you can see where we need to decide which customizations are for the developer or for the site builder, where you decide the whole thing for the whole site, and which other customizations are for the user, like the font size, or the high contrast mode, or reduce motion options, where the user can decide for them which is the best option. Or for example, some other things like the accent for the whole colors, or for example, if you want less spacing, and I don't know, all these things that are more appropriate for the site builder itself. Also, some things that are coming are the layout changes. We are, as you remember, we were basing all the designs and all the changes on the current setup that we have right now, but we are planning on doing a lot of changes. Probably the first one is going to be to get rid of the header and use all this space for, I don't know, for example, a toolbar where we have the save button in there and all other things. And something else that we are discussing is, for example, the sidebar, to let other forums, not only forums for the content types, but also other admin pages to have the sidebar. But there are different discussions here, like, is this sidebar going to have like a max width, or are going the users to be able to change the width? Is the width going to change depending on the content, on the user? So there are several discussions going on. And something that also, not sure if you realized on the designs that I was showing from Jean, is that in general, we decided, actually claro, the name claro in Spanish means light or lighter, because we wanted a really light UI. And we wanted to use shadows and separate layers, like on a visual perspective, as you can see here, for example. And we wanted to use layers to separate everything on the screen. As you can see, the sidebar is in one layer, the content itself is in one layer, the toolbar is in another layer, and we have another, as you can see, the header is another layer. So that was the goal. and we are going towards that direction, but it's Drupal core. We need to do one step after the other. And more things that are happening outside the initiative and related to the UI, for example, that some of them started on the initiative itself and then spin off into another initiative or something that is just related. For example, the user dashboard, and you say, oh, come on, it's 2020. Are we really talking about having a dashboard and like it's a new thing or something like that? But the thing is that how many big projects that you start actually setting up like this initial page for the user where they have like a list of things or something like that. And this is going to be possible the moment that we have this new configuration for editors. So this is something that is going to come at some point, even though we already have a project that is called Dashboard on the Contrib. Also something that is coming from that we really need to take care of is the future of the content forms. Because as I was saying before, we have at least 3 different content types or different contents that need different forms. For example, we have landing pages like this layout builder kind of thing where you have one page and you want to change a lot of things there. Then we have also the blog-like style pages where you might want to have something like it's Gutenberg-like, an edit experience similar to that. But then you have some forms where you actually have strict structured data where all the other tools that you would use for the other ones won't work here. So it is important to say that for Drupal, content strategy is a key, is a really important thing because content is the key for Drupal because at the end we are a content management system. And the important thing that we need to take into account is where is this content going to be consumed? Because nowadays we can say it's going to be consumed on a smartphone, but also it's more real and more important every day when you say maybe it's not on a smartphone, it's maybe in a smart TV or maybe on a smart fridge for the recipes. So it is important to talk about the API first initiative that API first will mean that everything is going to be shown or exposed to us through an API. And this is really important for the future of Drupal. So that's why the content strategy that we set up on our project will define how we create everything. And also we need to take that into account to build anything for Drupal core. And something else that is kind of related to that is a project that is going forwards. Here you have the link on the slide. I will share the slides later, but are fieldable fields. Several people with several projects came together and they are working towards a project that will be able to have like several fields inside the field. And that's really important because if you want to show that through an API, it is important that it's working together. So I would like to finish the session with some reflections because it is important for the future of the admin UI and also for the future for Drupal. I know sounds obvious, but it's not that obvious. So Drupal 9 is not the same product that Drupal 7 was. You know that Drupal 7 was a lot of times just compared with WordPress and with other CMS. Drupal 9 is not that. So the kind of project that you start building when you create a budget or whatever, when you decide to go with Drupal 9, it's because this is giving other tools that it's usually bigger projects that you need for. It doesn't mean that Drupal is not worth for different projects or smaller projects. It's just that right now the Drupal core is much more complex than the core that we have like 10 years ago. So we need to be aware that all the core workflows are slow because we need to take into account a lot of things. Like all the accessibility, we have a huge commitment for accessibility. And for example, let's say that we want a new JavaScript UI. Yes, but this has to work with concurrent editing. So it's not that easy. So we need a long-term involvement, and this is actually the thing that has a huge impact on Drupal core. The people that is involved for a long time is the people that can help moving the project forward. So we need people and companies supporting these people to move this project forward. So if you are in a position where you can decide that, just take that into account. And the good thing is that Drupal.org is every day working towards giving more visibility to the companies that are actually making that possible. So finishing up and wrapping up a little bit, if you want to know a little bit more about which are the strategic initiatives, those are the links, or there's also the ideas issue queue where people is presenting or is proposing new things. So just go there and see how you would like to get involved. Here are some clues. There's the weekly UX meetings on the UX channel. There's the admin UI Slack channels where you can go in and get involved. There's also if you want to get involved on the front end thing, there's also the Drupal 9 front end theme Olivero. Just go into Drupal.org/Slack if it's the first time that you log in through Slack, and feel free to reach me on any of those channels or the contrib channels or anywhere else. My name on Drupal.org is Tekrina, and on Twitter is Chumillas. So thank you. And however I can help you to get involved, I will be there.
Great. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. It's great work. I mean, it's super interesting to see the things going on there. So many nice details to it, I'd say. Our time is up, actually, so we don't really have time for questions, though we are just entering a break. So I think we could talk for a few more minutes if you have time, Christina. Yeah, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
For the people that needs the break and want to grab some more coffee, Sven, what is happening in about 15 minutes now at 11 o'clock?
Yeah, after the break, Marlon is here, and he's going to talk about the technology that has scaled the most since the internet was born, and that's DNS, the domain name system. Everybody in our business has definitely heard about DNS, and most likely will set some of those records as well. And Marlon will tell us a little bit more about how it really works. We'll explain about the whole DNS ecosystem, from root servers to ghost files, and talk a bit about strengths and weaknesses and what lies in the future. So check that out after the break.
Interesting, thank you. Okay, let's switch quickly back to you, Christina. And first of all, have we had any questions on the YouTube stream? Not yet.
I have one question.
Come on, Frank.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you are working in Fractal. Figma, which is really great.
Yes.
And also you mentioned Storybook and Fractal among style guides. Have you chosen one of them or?
Not yet. Not yet. The thing is that there is a big. So there's a lot of people that wants to work on Storybook. This so far is the one that looks better, but until we don't get Claro as the default theme, at that point, then we will break the team and start working on the other. So until then, we will have time to decide. So Storybook is the one that looks like it's the more suitable. but we are still not sure this is going to go that. So if there is people that is interested on working on that, it could start already, but probably the maintainers won't have time to get involved yet. So what will probably help choosing one on another is having people with experience with one on another, because it will make things much easier. So that's the open question also for us.
Okay, I have a question, and hopefully you didn't, maybe I missed it, but I was just curious about if there's much work going on the pages for example, taxonomy, term editing, and menu editing. Because if you consider Drupal to be a good fit for larger sites with longer hierarchies and lots of content, those edit pages can be a bit overwhelming.
Agreed, totally agreed. And that's why we are trying to make changes on the layout, because that's the one that is going to have a huge impact on pages like taxonomy and so on, because at the end we have an structure that is exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same, but really similar to the one that we have for content types. It's just that we have that displayed on a different way because we don't have the forms, the custom forms or something like that for taxonomies or any other form. So that's the path forward that we are trying to have, is just implementing the sidebar and all the other regions into the rest of the pages and making them available for whoever that wants to build the form for the admin UI.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Okay, so very good. Thank you, Christina. We have about 10 minutes left of our break. I will just keep this meeting going here. So if you want to discuss chit chat and get that out on the stream, feel free to do that. But we will be good and ready at 11 o'clock. So we'll see you then. Feel free to stay, as we said. And we're ready. It's 11 o'clock, Sven, so you can introduce, please.
Yeah, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Marlon Saglia. He's a dear colleague from Ramsalt Lab, and he's a senior developer, works with DevOps, and lives in Trondheim, Norway, and enjoys climbing, snowboard, kitesurf, and metal, according to his Twitter. He's also a savvy beer brewer, and he's here to talk about the thing everybody uses, but not many know in detail, DNS or domain name system. Take it away.
Good morning. Welcome to my virtual room. Hope you'll enjoy my talk. As Sven said, it's about DNS. DNS is domain name service. And yes, let's start. First, if you have any questions, there is a link on top of my slides. You can ask questions there. And at every chapter, I'll stop and take a look if there is anyone ask question, and I will answer those. At the end of the talk, of course, you can also ask me question. But enough introduction, let's start. So I am Marlon Saglia, as Sven said. I'm working in Ramsalt since 2014. I have 10 years of experience of Drupal and PHP and all the things around. I've been also running and breaking, depending how you see it, Debian on my servers and on Ramsalt servers for the same amount of time. Security enthusiast, open source supporter, and you can find me pretty much everywhere with the name of @Solitos, Twitter, Drupal, GitHub, wherever in the internet you can find me. Yeah, as I said, we are Ramsalt. We are a web agency specialized in Drupal. We have also offices, as you might know, in Norway, Germany, Netherlands, Romania, and much more. We have a bunch of clients, as you might expect. Those are some relevant ones. We have clients in governmental sector, publishing industry, NGO, and private organizations. We're, of course, expanding, and we are hiring. We are currently looking for developers and project managers, but if you think you're a great person, just send us a ping and we'll get in touch. So again, introduction is done. Let's begin. So first of all, what is DNS? It's a core part of the internet as we know it. Was born very early in the stage of internet. It's actually as old as me because this was introduced in 1987. It's basically a database or distributed database for address translation. It through the years has been abused for attacks, surveillance, advertising, insertion, and much more. It's often very superficially understood because the base is simple, but when you look into details, it might be confusing. And recently is under heavy revision by different parties, and we'll look into that later. So why do we need DNS? Well, it's very simple. Like computers cannot understand a string, which is a domain name. They only understand, or internet only understands IPs. So IPs are not really human friendly, as you might expect. If it's a simple IP that we all know, like 192 to 1868, the local address, it's, you remember because those are three or four, but, they're not really easy to scale. So Drupal.org, for instance, becomes 151.10.2.17, and then the computer can actually see it. So the solution is like we could hard code the whole domain names on your computers, but that's not really possible considering at Q2 2020, there was around 370 million registered domains. And this is only the domains, not the records. So that doesn't really scale. So I said we need it, and they don't understand, the computers don't really understand IPs or domains. But why is that? So an IP that I think we all know, it looks like this. It's like a bunch of numbers. By the way, we're only going to talk about IPv4 because it's the same concept. It's just easier to explain and to show, but IPv6 is exactly the same concept behind the scenes. So as I was saying, it's usually expressed in a quad notation that you all have seen. It's 4 numbers ranging from 0 to 255, and each one of those represents 1 byte. Why is it important? Because each number, it's then represented in binary at the beginning of each IP packet, which is sent from your browser or from your machine or from whatever, and it's then used to route your traffic to the correct destination. So we understood why IP is needed, but how was before they introduced DNS? Well, as you might expect, it was basically hard-coded. Internet was small, it was manageable. So it was like host.txt file, which was fetched nightly on your computer from a local FTP server, or in some Unix system, it was an etc host file edited by local sysadmins. There was then a few softwares which tried to solve this problem, like SunYP, NextNetInfo, SRI hostname, but overall, none of those actually work or was not even deployed, like in the case of SRI hostname. So we understand now what it is and why do we need it. So how does this actually work? It all starts with the root dot, or known as the invisible dot. It's just there, you never see it, it's actually there. I hope it's very tiny. I hope you actually see it in your screens, but yeah, it's that tiny at the end. This represents the root domain. So the root domain, okay, I said this very fancy name, but we have this computer, it's your laptop, you want to go obviously on www.drupal.org, but your computer does not know where this is. So it will contact a server, a resolver server, and will ask, hey, where do I find, or what's the IP of www.drupal.org? At this point, for simplification, we will assume that every server we contact from now on does not have any cache. Those caches are there, but for the purpose of demonstration, let's assume they have 0 cache in their memory. Resolver doesn't know, so it will go for the root servers, which are hard-coded in every machine or in every DNS resolver, and they're around 20. They're managed by different companies. They're managed by IANA, which is the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, and they are more than 20, but 20 IPs. They're 20, and they have information about all the global top-level domains, which is org. So, for instance, org, com, net, and all those crazy new ones like website, porn, and so on. So, as we said, the resolver will ask one of the root servers, hey, what is the IP of Drupal.org? And the root server does not know. It can't hold all the information. So it will just answer, I don't really know what's the www.drupal.org IP, but I know that the .org information is held by this other server. So the resolver will cache this information and go for one of the .org global top-level domain server, DNS server. And again, we'll ask, hey, do you know what's the IP of www.drupal.org? Again, this is only holding information about the .org zone, so it will know where Drupal.org is hosted. So it will answer, well, I don't really know where is www.drupal.org, but I know that this other server knows where you can find this information. So this is a authoritative server. So finally, the resolver will contact this authoritative server for the DNS of Drupal.org, and then this will answer, hey, www.drupal.org as IP 10.0.0.0.1, for instance. At this point, the resolver will again cache this information, so if it gets asked again, it doesn't have to do this whole recursive iteration, and then we'll finally return it to our browser or to our machine that can finally go and talk to Drupal.org. So you see, this is a lot of things happening because it's like at least minimum for getting a domain is 3 queries in the worst case scenario. So this needs to be fast. Otherwise, our experience of surfing the internet, requesting API calls, and doing everything that is runs on the internet now, it will be slow. This system was also designed quite a long ago, so there were and are ways to create issues like attacks like amplification attacks, cache poisoning, and more. I was initially planning to talk about this, but it went a bit out of scope. So If you're interested, let me know, and I will have a future presentation about DNS attacks. So we have seen how it looks with arrows and nice drawings, but how does it look when you actually want to have this happening? So let's say on my computer, I want to know what's the IP of Drupal.org. So I'm using Dig, which is a common tool used for querying DNS. And I'm asking +trace, which means I want to see the whole history. I don't want any cached information. I just want to know the whole thing. And I'm asking for the A record. We'll get into detail what is that later. And for www.drupal.org. So the first answer I get is this magic dot, that invisible dot that we're saying. I have cut all the output to the minimum to understand, just to purpose of demonstrations, but you would get 20 results in this case. I took like erootservers.net. There's a bunch of them. So you see, this is my own computer that knows about those. It will say to program Dig, it will say, hey, you should ask to the root server as we have seen in the previous slide. So fine, then my program will go and ask to this, the root server, and say, hey, do you know where they can find Drupal.org? And it will answer as we expected. No, I know where to find org. It's managed by A0 org affiliates NSD info. It's like, oh yeah. So he goes there once more and say, so do you know where Drupal.org is found? And it's like, yeah, not really. I know where you can find the name server, which knows, and it's managed by NS4 DNSMadeEasy.com. And finally, we go and ask to DNS4 DNSMadeEasy.com, and sure enough, we actually get the IP address of www.drupal.org. Now, I have lied a bit because there is a CDN in front of Drupal.org, so you would actually get a CNAME, but for the purpose of our talk, it doesn't really matter. We just get a record back. So you saw there was a bunch of numbers and names and so on. So what was each thing? By the way, I forgot to check if there is any questions. At the moment, it seems no one has, so let's keep on going. So we have seen that there was a few answers, like some text, some numbers, and some other text. So how is it all set up? So there are a variety of DNS record types. At the moment, there is around 100. Some are actually deprecated and not used, or some are like a very edge case, which is only useful for a very small amount of people. So, but in general, there is 100. They are defined initially when DNS was launched and over the years with different RFCs. They have all a common syntax, but some don't really have the same. There are special cases, and we'll get in like a few examples now. And if you want the whole list of DNS records, there is a list in Wikipedia, of course. So the most important one for have a DNS zone or DNS domain to work is actually the record NS, which stands for name server. This is the record which is required for any domain to work, and it will be sent to that global top-level domain servers, which are like the second we contacted. You know, there was the root, and then there was that one. And this is a crucial information because it says Drupal.org is managed by NS4 DNSEasy.com. Without this information, your domain is basically impossible to access unless you know exactly where to ask for. So this is a critical one to have. The next one, extremely common. You might have seen it like hundreds of times. You might have said it all the time. It's the A record, or for IPv6 AAAA record. It holds an IP address of a domain. It's straightforward, has the IP, and once the browser can go there, the service queries it, you know where to get this the website or domain or subdomain. The next one, which is extremely common as well, it's the CNAME, which stands for common name. It just means take this domain this record and actually look for this other record or domain. So for example, if Drupal, and in the example of Drupal.org, when you actually ask for www.drupal.org, you get a response CNAME and one endpoint of Fastly, which is their CDN. And at that point, the browser, or sorry, the DNS resolver will get again to search for that other domain which was answered. The other one extremely common, which is essential for having your mail to work, is the MX or mail exchange. It's used for mail exchanges. So whenever you send an email, which is at Drupal.org, your server, the SMTP server, will go and check, hey, wait a second, how do I get the mail to the mail server of Drupal.org? It will look for the MX record. Usually you want to have more than one, because if your first one goes down, you don't want to lose your emails. So there is a special syntax which explains which is the primary, which is the second one. The next one, extremely common, is a TXT record. It's basically a varchar field if you look at the SQL database, because you can input any text you want with a limit. I don't remember exactly at the moment, but it's quite a lot of text you can put in there. And this has become quite used in recent days for domain verification from Google Apps or from Google Tag Manager, or all those products which need to verify that you actually own your domain. Or it is extremely important for mail delivery. And I could have a whole talk about that as well. So I will just say like the SPF record and the DKIM records, TXT records, which contain this information, so the SPF, are critical to ensure that your emails are actually going delivered and they are allowed to be sent from a specific server. And it holds a lot of more information, but by itself, it is just a text field. Then whatever you put around it is logic that a software or a service puts around that. So we have seen what kind of records you have. So let's see how it would look in a bind, or bind, one of the most common DNS servers on Unix, or in like the format which is called a DNS zone, how it would look like in there. So whenever you have a zone, I have stripped away all the information which are technical just to set up a DNS zone. So this is simply the core, so each record. So this is a record. This means that for a zone, which could be Drupal.org or could be anything, but it says that the subdomain or the record www has a time to leave, or has a caching time of 300 seconds. And it's you can find it as a record, which is an IP, and then says 10.0.0.1. It means that when you ask for www.drupal.org, you will get a response like this. It says, this is valid for 300 seconds, and this is the IP. Same for the IPv6, it's just like a different format for the IPv6, but that's the same concept. And again, similar thing for a CNAME, as I've explained. This is again the time with this is valid. We're looking for a webmail, and you're actually telling to use webmail.example.com instead of giving them an IP. So it means that you have, for instance, a webmail which is hosted by a cloud provider. They will handle the IP. You don't have to update the IP if they move it to a new server or a new machine, or you don't have to deal with that. This is a bit strange, as an @ Have you ever seen a website which starts with an @ Not really, and actually it's a special character. It just means the root domain. So it says Drupal.org. This is valid without the subdomain. It is valid for Drupal.org. And this is an MX record, as I said, has a slightly different format because there is also an extra number apart from the TTL. This is the priority. The smaller this number, the higher the priority of this mail server. And again, we have used a cloud service of example.com. And it means that you're telling that your mail is managed by this server here. As we talked about, the TXT record, again, valid for the root domain. And it says, this is one example of the SPF record, which validates your email, your sending server for the emails. And as you can see, it's just text. The content of it could be anything. I could put hello Drupal.org or hello DrupalCamp Oslo, and it will be fine. So this was a bit of overview of the records and how it works. Let's see what are a bit of the problems which comes with DNS. So 80% of the problems is like you have to change a record, but you have set the TTLs or the time to live to a very high number, for instance 1 day or even more. And when you change it, well, people will still get the same record, the same results because of the caches that I talked about before. They will get the same results for a long time. Worst case scenario, they actually have just requested your domain and they're getting it for a whole day in the case of 1 day. So this is suboptimal. Other issues, again, cache issues again, is the domain name usually is that. Like you get stale results and once more, cache. So 99% of issues, if DNS works, are going to be related to DNS, to cache. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And if it works, the issues you encounter are cache. And that's pretty much it. Like, but those are the simple issues. And there is some edge cases. One of them I encountered exactly yesterday. So I added it to this slides because then it's an interesting one. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, it can screw you over. So let's take the example of 2 name servers, which is usually the minimum that each domain has. Let's say NS1, Drupal.org, NS2, Drupal.org, and those are out of sync. So they have a different record, for the same, different value for the same record. So www.drupal.org is 10.1.0.11 in one, and then the other one is 192.168.1.1. So what happens at this point? Like, what if I query Drupal.org and I want to know what's the IP of www.drupal.org? Well, ideally, the first DNS server should always be the one selected. So you provide them in order, and the DNS should always get the first, which is very sad when you have the one which is out of sync and it's your first. However, in the real world, things are never true as theoretical level. So it happens that some people might get one, some others get another. Some online tools that your partners is using are showing that no, but the DNS is updated. But when you actually go and test it on your command line, which is source of truth, you actually get that is sometimes one, sometimes the other. Some cloud providers have updated their cache, some others have not. So it's a mess. For instance, the issue we were using yesterday, we encountered yesterday, was we needed to add a Let's Encrypt certificate to the site we just launched. But this was not possible because while we were getting the new IP, Let's Encrypt was getting the old IP, which was in one of those servers. So it was asking to the old servers, therefore not validating our ACME request. Therefore, we had to fight to get this name server updated, and finally we could take a breath. It was interesting that happened just yesterday. So this is a very quick and very generic introduction of how it looks in general today, or how it looks how it works DNS and how it works on the server side. But as I said in the beginning, it is under heavy revision. Still no questions, so I'll just go on for this chapter. So how does it look today and how does it look tomorrow, or more like how it looks yesterday and how it looks today, because things are happening fast. And a lot of things which I'm going to talk about, they are already implemented in the browsers, and most browsers already announced to implement those. So today, DNS works on TCP, or most likely UDP on port 53. It is not encrypted. It is easily monitored. It is easily blocked. It is easily redirected and easily modified for the exclusion of DNSSEC, which is not very widely implemented. So basically, it was built, as I said, when the web or the internet was a trustworthy place. Today, you might know that is not really the case anymore. So is it good? I mean, it really subjective. If you ask to authoritative regimes, yes, it's good because you can, control it, you can block it, you can monitor it, you can redirect it, you can, change the answers you get. So it is good. If you're asking for the person living there, you might not really agree with that. On top of that, ISPs like to monitor this because they will sell this information to third parties. So they will tell what sites you're visiting, and you can get a lot of information out of your DNS queries. And then it's been basically it put too much trust, and there were too many issues with that. So what's the solution for this? There are actually two solutions. The first one is DOT or DNS over TLS, and the other one is DOH, DNS over HTTP. I will not discuss the political details of that because there's a lot of discussions around which one is better, and each one of them is good for a reason. And basically, it's up to what you're trying to solve. One is better and the other one is worse, even though nowadays it seems the second is taking the priority. But let's see the details of DNS over TLS. So it runs on port 80, TCP port 8053. Again, very specific port. So it can be easily monitored, not the content though, only the traffic. You can only know that someone is using DNS. So you don't really see the content because it is encrypted like it is HTTPS. So you can only know that there is DNS traffic. It is therefore, since it's on a specific port, it is easily blocked. So you can easily block that port, and then you have to fall back on the standard DNS, which is again not very good if you don't want to be monitored and don't want to have your answer modifiable. It is not easily modified because again, this is encrypted like with TLS, which is the same as used for HTTPS, and we know that this is rather safe, so it can't be modified. It might be a bit more CPU intensive for given the scale. It is a bit slower because every request needs to have a TLS handshake in the beginning, which is a quite slow process. There are solutions to that, and you might not want to run DNS over TLS all the way to the whole chain of DNS, but yeah, we don't really know if it's going to affect any the performances because it's still early stages. As I said, the other alternative is DOH or DNS over HTTPS. As the word says, it's basically wrapping DNS traffic as HTTPS traffic. Therefore, it runs on the standard port that HTTPS uses, which is the 443. It is encrypted the same way as the DNS over TLS with the same system HTTPS uses. It's not easily monitored because it just looks like normal HTTPS traffic. It's not easily blocked because you would have to block the whole HTTPS HTTPS port, which of course doesn't really work nowadays. It's not easily modifiable, again, for the same reason, it is encrypted. And also here, of course, because of the TLS encryption, it might be a bit harder to on the CPU. So at the moment, those two are, in a fight. So they're like it's a very, if you ask people which are into DNS, they will know that there is a bit of discussions, which one is best, which one should be implemented, which one shouldn't. It's not, my opinion is that there is not like a good solution. It depends on your needs. For example, DOH is very good for authoritative regimes because it can't be monitored, and DOT it's very good for day-to-day applications because it's a bit more simple. More simple. So this was a very quick, very compact presentation about a lot of aspects of DNS. I hope you discover something new. If you have questions, not today, you can still reach me over any of my social media or emails. I'm very happy to talk to you about DNS or whatever you want to. And I see there is already a question from Kevin, which says, can one avoid... Sorry. Oh, there was a bit of echo at the moment. Okay. Can one avoid the problem of DOT being blocked by tunneling through a server where it is not blocked, assuming the port 22 SSH or 443 is open, and this is possible? Yeah, you could do that, but then you kind of lose the reason why you would have DNS over TLS instead of DNS over HTTPS. The DNS over HTTPS, by the way, it is what is nowadays going to be shipped in all browsers, which means it might be a bit of a problem for system administrators that want to have a bit of control, not negatively, but a good authoritarian setup, not like a regime in a country, but actually something good, like preventing you to go to phishing sites or like things like that. So to answer again, Kevin, you can, but there's not really any point. At that point, you can just use DNS over HTTPS and you get the same, the same advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, so questions basically.
We have one question from the comment field on the YouTube stream. The question is from Jon. Is the TTL record determined by max age in Drupal?
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I haven't said actually is why. No, not really. So if you go back to the slide there, no, this is has nothing to do with HTTP. That's important to remember. It's also the reason why I wanted to have this talk with Drupal developers, is because HTTP is a completely separate technology. Nothing to do with DNS. You could run HTTP without DNS, no problem. You can just have a request going to a direct IP. DNS is not involved, and you're fine. So basically, the TTL field is just a normal field in a database, let's say, which says whenever you get this record from me, that I'm the name server, you can assume that I will not change this record for this amount of time. It is a way to have caches in the DNS servers and in your computer, but nothing to do with HTTP again. HTTP is a completely different thing. To prevent the fact that every time you want to visit www.drupal.org, you have to go and do this whole talking to the root server, talking to the global TLD server, talking to the authoritative server, maybe some other one if it's a subdomain. So it's a way to say, remember this record for this amount of time. It does not affect HTTP. It does not affect anything which comes after you have the IP. So the sole role of DNS, it is to give you an answer for a domain. It could be an IP, it could be a text record, but that's it. It's basically a database. It has no more than that. You can't do a redirect. Like one misconception, because a lot of DNS registers, so where you manage your DNS, they provide you with an option to have a redirect. But this is not a DNS. DNS doesn't know about the redirect. What is the redirect going to be? It is your DNS provider, which says, okay, I'm going to point this record, let's say, www2. I'm going to point it to myself, to my own server. And in my own server, I'm going to set up something which returns an HTTP response, which says, hey, browser, you should actually look to this other page. But this is not DNS. DNS itself only provides you with an IP or a text answer. That's it. It doesn't have any extra things around it. So it's, to answer briefly, no, it does not affect the max the max age. Of course, one edge case, just to extend on that, one edge case that you might have is that you have a very high TTL on your domain, as we have seen before, like you have a whole day. And you actually change server in the meanwhile, and you still get the old page because you're getting it from the old server. But this, it's not related with HTTP itself, but you might get the case that it is affecting that you get an old page.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Doesn't seem so. While people think about that for a few more seconds, Silja, what happens next?
Hi. Yes. Next up after this is Digdir, represented by Håvard. He will be talking about the large transition from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. Håvard will also be back later today with another session also representing Digdir.
Sounds good. And that's happening in about 10 minutes at 11:45. So, but we can just stay in the meeting room here. If you have any more questions, feel free to let the dialogue keep going. But right before that, Marlon, thank you so much for a great presentation.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm very happy if anybody wants to give me feedback on Twitter, Drupal.org, or wherever you want. It's my first presentation on the outside the public, so I'm very eager to have your feedback. Thank you for hosting me. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we'll see you soon then.
Shall I just start?
Jeg vet ikke om du vil innlede litt først, Silje? Eller? Vi er I hvert fall klare sånn tidsmessig.
Ja, egentlig så kan Håvard bare starte, hvis det foretrekker.
But yeah, by the way, English or Norwegian?
English.
Yeah, great. Great, Håvard. Good to have you. So feel free to introduce yourself and just get going.
Yeah. So my name is Håvard Tørresen. I work at the Norwegian Digitalization Agency. And I will be talking about our transition from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. So I'll first cover some information about who we are and what we are tasked with doing, and then move on to some background about our situation 2 years ago when we started the transition process. And then move on to how we approached the transition and show a course timeline of our progress, run through some of our sites and profiles that have been converted, and finish with some of our biggest takeaways from things we've learned.
By the way, Håvard, would you like to get questions as you go, or do you want them in the end?
I think both would work.
Both will work. So feel free, people.
So we were formerly known as the Norwegian Agency for Public Management and E-Government, or DIFI, as the Norwegian shorthand name was. We also house the Authority for Universal Design of ICT, who have the job of auditing and potentially punishing those who fail to comply with the laws regarding universal design. DIGDA is tasked with coordinating and pushing the public sector into providing more and better digital services for the population. We currently have offices in Brønnøysund, Leikanger, and Oslo. Our team is working on Drupal is a group of 7 people, all located in Leikanger, with offices close to the, right on top of the shoreline and deep in the fjords. We work mainly with Drupal, but also deploy other technologies as necessary. So some of our background. In 2018, we had about 20 Drupal 7 sites that we were maintaining and developing. This was a mixture of multi-site and single-site profiles. And the oldest ones date back all the way to 2011. So there's quite some technological depth as well. Over the years, there has been some natural reduction of those sites, as some have been consolidated into what was then our primary site, difi.no. Some have simply been shut down or archived. And some have also been have had their ownership transferred to the FÖ, the Agency for Public and Economic Management. So our approach for the transition, we had limited resources, although 7 people may sound like a decent team. It quickly gets reduced to just 1 or 2 men per project if we're stretching ourselves too thin. So we wanted to avoid doing too many things at once. And we had an initial focus on infrastructure and tools. getting our development environment up and running and having a functional deployment pipeline, those kind of things. And then we aim to extend our visions as our experience with Drupal 8 grew. Timeline. In 2018, we started exploration of Drupal 8 and figuring out how to set up our infrastructure and necessary development tools. In 2019, we deployed our first Drupal 8 sites to production. In total, we deployed 4 different sites. 3 of those are public facing and 1 is internal. And then this year we started with launching 2 sites right at the start of the year, and then 1 more a few months later. Hopefully we'll have 1 or 2 more in production by the end of the year. And our future, we are aiming to get the remaining sites migrated. Our infrastructure and tools were based on our existing setup for Drupal 7. Only minor modifications were needed to get that up and running for Drupal 8. So we've landed on developing on virtual machines configured with Vagrant so that we can ensure everyone has the same development environment and also that we're as close to the production service as possible. A build pipeline handled with Jenkins, so that's multi-stage deployment. And we've aimed to separate our own stuff from Drupal core and third-party components, as well as separating the individual profiles and themes and modules as well. That enables easy updates of Drupal core and third-party modules as security updates are released, and also makes it easier for ourselves to maintain our own code. So over to the sites and profiles we've developed so far. 2019, we started with user diffi.no, which is used for logging into most of our Drupal sites. The login solution itself is based on Keycloak, but that was missing some GDPR functionality that we figured we could provide with Drupal. So this site only has a handful of fixed paths, and the theme is based on the existing theme that we were using in Keycloak. And the whole thing was then stitched together at the load balancer. So users shouldn't be able to tell the difference between what's Drupal and what's Keycloak. Then we moved on to ede.diffi.no, which is the support pages for ide-porten. This was a straight port of the Drupal 7 version. because the product owners did not have the time and resources to help with the proper reworking of the entire content. So we re-implemented the existing functionality that we had in Drupal 7 and duplicated the theme and migrated the data. One challenge with this site was that since it was so old, the translations failed to migrate properly with the default plugins. So we had to do some special tricks to work around that. Finally, we have allglobal.difu.no, which is a simple API for requesting the logo of various organizations. This was actually slightly reduced from the Drupal 7 version, so we discarded any public-facing theme and just deliver some simple JSON endpoints. This was also a fairly straightforward job, duplicating the node types and migrating the data. Then this year, we moved on to digdir.no, which is our new primary site, replacing difu.no. This is intended as a multi-site profile, which other sites that both have been deployed and will be deployed will also be using the same code base. Difu.no had a lot of content, and much of it was poorly structured, with deep menu trees, and the editors wanted a clean slate so that they could rebuild things in a better way. And this will also be a ongoing or living profile, so to speak, as we'll continue developing new features and refining existing functionality. Almost at the same time, we also released Norsk Lysingsblad. This was also a complete rebuild with Drupal. The old site was written with ASP, so it's a really ancient system. And the old data was migrated from exported CSV files. The main challenge here was the amount of data that we had to import. And then a bit later this year, we migrated datanorge.no, or Felles Data Catalog as it's called now. This is a mixed site. Drupal only provides part of the content that is displayed on the site. All the data sets that are listed are provided through another system. It uses the same profile as digdir.no and delivers the content through JSON API module. And so, takeaways from this is well, the config management system was the biggest thing we wanted to get to know. It was a significant improvement from strong arm and features modules, and enables us to easily add our own configuration for the various own modules that we've made. But there are some useful plugins that provide potentially essential functionality. One of those is config ignore, which allows you to exclude config values from being exported to code and overwritten on import, which is very useful if there's secrets that you don't want in your code base. Another module is config split, which allows you to use different configs based on the environment that Drupal is running in. So in the image here, you can see that we have different environments for development, production, and test. We also have a folder for different configurations based on what site it is being used. Then finally, there's also the importance of checking the configuration after updating modules. Some of them, as they do bigger upgrades, they may transform the default configuration. You don't want to overwrite that with an older format again. So running update hooks before deploying updated configs is also essential. The migration process is core ships with plugins to handle migrations from Drupal 6, 7, and 8. These plugins work directly connect directly to a database and allows you to easily import fields, only needing to map the old field names to the new ones per node. But there are also a couple of useful plugins, modules here as well. Migrate Plus and Migrate Tools, they offer some useful features. Migrate Plus provides extra plugins for passing data that can be in different formats, XML or JSON, for instance, and also from fetching from different sources, HTTP or a file path, which then can be used for grabbing data from an API for that matter. Migrate Tools provides drush commands so that you can trigger the migration job from the terminal or a prompt hub, which is also quite useful. But the migrate module is not just there to migrate all data. You can also replace the feeds module. And we are ourselves are using it to import the employee list on data.no, for instance. And with those extra plugins that Migrate Plus provides, we can also fetch data from external APIs and display that as a feed on the site. We'd also recommend editing the migrate configuration files directly instead of working through the user interface, as we have found the interface to be quite limiting in the flexibility that is allowed. Moving on to content management. On our older sites, and especially digda.no, we had several nearly identical nodes with a whole pile of different specific fields. And usually the body field also grew to sizes that were hard to manage for the editors. So we settled on using the paragraphs module to divide content in nodes into smaller chunks. Paragraphs themselves can be nested, so we can keep the node definition simpler by adding one simple paragraph field to the node, and that one again allows several different paragraph types to be nested within it. It also enables easily reshuffling the content. If you, for instance, need to move an image further up or down, or moving a download link to somewhere else. This image shows most of the various paragraphs we've added to our nodes. May look a bit overwhelming in this dropdown, but it does enable a significant improvement for our editors and how they approach the management of content within the nodes. And the node itself is then reduced to only a few handful of fields instead of tens or more fields to handle very specific things. And then finally, I have some thoughts regarding porting or rebuilding the sites that you intend to migrate or transition. We'd recommend going for rebuilding the site, as that enables you to make use of the new and better features that Drupal 8 provides of Drupal 7. And also enables you to redesign the whole data model of the nodes and fields that you use, and as well as the information structure, which is more for the editors, but usually matters for the developers as well. The challenge is that all data can be hard or impossible to fit in a new model. A gigantic body field with lots of images and tables and similar things can be very challenging to split into specific paragraph types. If there's a need to retain all the old data, that will make the design of the nodes different or restricted in terms of what options you have. This has to be considered on case by case, obviously. But both the experience of developers and the complexity of the site matters significantly. That was more or less all I had for this talk. Went a lot quicker than I expected. So if there are any questions, please fire away.
Thank you for that, Håvard. Is there any questions? Is there anything we can see on the YouTube stream? No, not yet at least. There's a question here from Truls.
Yeah, I have one question. I was wondering, do you also have your own profile in the Drupal community as well? Or do you only use it for internal stuff?
All our profiles are internal only. They tend to be rather specific for our needs, so we haven't really considered making them public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it seems like there are no further questions at this moment. So our next thing that will happen here in Oslo, at least, is a lunch break. So we can extend that slightly and start a bit before, I suppose. We have a couple more sessions after lunch, starting at 1 o'clock. Silje, can you give a brief introduction to that so we know what to expect?
Oh yes, I can do that. After lunch, I will hold a session.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's up. It's me and Eirik from the media, and we will be talking about how we are working with Layout Builder and how we can make the whole experience with working with Layout Builder as a content creator, how we can make it more pleasant.
Very much looking forward to that, Silje and Eirik. So that's going to be good. That's at 1 o'clock sharp in about 45 minutes from now. Mm-hmm. Just want to say also that we have a sprint set up this afternoon, starting at around 2:15 is what we have there in the program. It would be great to see many people there. I think we should just continue using the Google Meet room that we're currently having here. Everyone that will try to attend there will be accepted into the meeting. We will not live stream it to YouTube, as it's more like a what should we call it? A workshop together. We will look at the different issues probably at Drupal.org. You know, we won't really set any restrictions there. It's Truls that will lead us through the start there. But it would be great to be lots of people with different knowledge skills. So I'm sure if you are a beginner, or if you're a developer, or if you are a designer, or even project manager, or working with Drupal in any other way, we will for sure work together and get progress. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's happening at 2:15. And I also want to say that we will hopefully before the sprint have an evaluation form that we can share with you all. I mean, it's the only way for us to get real great feedback on how this event feels from all of you following the live stream, or being presenters, or whatever your role is. So please set aside a few minutes and fill out the evaluation form. We will give you a link to that as soon as we can, and it will also be available on that page where you found links to streaming and so on the campsite. So have a great lunch, drink lots of coffee, and eat healthy products. We will come back with better lives. Something like that at 1 o'clock. Okay, have a great lunch break. Yay. Okay, seems like you're ready. So, but we'll wait until 1 o'clock, another 5 minutes till we actually start. Then I have time to grab my coffee, I believe. Do you have a GIF while we wait? I mean,
a GIF?
Yeah, yeah. A waiting GIF? Is there such a thing, Erik? Yeah, you can think about it. That's my challenge to you. That's my challenge to you.
Yes, but right now it's Silja's screen, so
okay.
My computer is full of GIFs.
Yeah, and or maybe I'm ruining some GIF plan, build up that you have prepared. So yeah, let's not mess that up.
It would be a problem if the waiting GIF was better than GIFs in the presentation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Plus, we can't have any spoilers,
That's true. Okay.
Waiting GIFs, none of that.
As long as you can promise me great GIFs throughout your presentation, I'm all good.
There will be gifts.
Okay, good.
Not gifts.
Gifts. Det viser seg ikke at du har manus der, men så har jeg vært mer. Jeg sitter og vent litt, jeg kan jo lese den der da.
Ja, det kan du. Du kan ta den der.
Ja, det går bra her.
Okay.
Hvis jeg er sikker på denne delen da, det hadde vært det. Nei, siden du bare delte et vindu.
Men jeg tenker på det lydene og sånne ting.
Ja, det er sant.
Jeg kan ikke skru av feil greier. Sånn. Hvordan kjeksen ser ut som de er sankere?
Erik og Silje, bare et spørsmål fra tolken her, om det gikk an å prøve å snakke litt roligere, saktere enn mange har gjort til nå. Det er ikke sikkert det er så lett, altså, men...
Vi prøver.
Ja.
Ja.
Så bra.
Så får du bare arrestere meg hvis jeg snakker veldig fort.
Ja.
So which one of you are the fastest talkers in general?
I'm a very, very slow talker, so it must be Silja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have that settled.
We could, of course, have a competition.
Yes. Can someone do a word count? Yeah, Fredrik does the word count, so,
I think it's generally known that people from north of Trondheim talk faster than Trondheim.
28.
That's a personal record, by the way, so I'm very pleased.
That's a personal record, yeah.
Never spoke more than 28 words.
Never spoken more. 28 was the limit. Okay, we're up in about 1 minute. I think we'll start sharp. So to everyone out there following the stream, we will start shortly.
Thanks.
So how should people prepare for your presentation, Silja and Eirik? I mean, should they sit back and relax or stand up and be ready to fight?
I don't think fighting will be necessary. But maybe if everyone could grab a pack of crackers and just, chug along. I think that's the best. And then mute the microphone while you're eating them.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. So let's get started. Thank you so much for being here, Silje and Eirik. Well, it's great if you could introduce yourself also. But first, would you like people to ask questions throughout the session or in the end?
Could save them till the end.
I think so, because it's kind of hard to see and hear if you're interrupting, because we have that other laptop way over there. So our very technical setup here, I think it's most practical if we wait to the end.
That sounds great. We will wait. And also, people following the stream, you could ask questions in the comment field there as well. So, whenever you're ready.
Oh, we're ready to roll. Okay. Yeah. Welcome to our session. We are going to talk about how we in the media are working on how to empower the layout builder content editors through limitation, education, and discipline. That's a nice slide.
Transition is there.
Who are we? Well, I am Silje. I work as a designer and front-end developer in the media. And with me here, I have Eirik, who is our technical team leader and a senior developer. I just want to say 2 words about Numedia. We are an agency that specializes on e-commerce and open source and systems that require complex integrations. We are based in Trondheim, and this is our team. We are currently 11 employees here. We also want to mention just some of our clients. Most of these, as you can see, are relevant for this. These are a lot of them are e-commerce stores. So, the overwhelming power of Layout Builder. When Layout Builder came with core in Drupal 8, all our content creators got a really powerful tool at their hands. There's so many options in these tools that these powers can be a bit overwhelming. This tool has lots and lots of flexibility. But today we will talk about how we can make this experience for all these content creators a bit more pleasant by limiting some options and have some good educating good practices and enforcing discipline so that both the content creators, we as developers, and the designers also could be happy with the end results.
So, using Layout Builder is kind of a technical solution to what designers want to achieve. And Layout Builder came as part of Drupal in version 8.5. It was an experimental module then, and it was released as a stable version with Drupal 8.7. This here is a GIF illustrating some of the things you can do with Layout Builder. It's partly based on common modules for Drupal 7, like panels and panels in place editors. So it's kind of the accumulation of experience from designing pages in Drupal 7 to ending up in core in Drupal 8. Oops. And I think you, yes, okay. So Drupal 8's Layout Builder allows content editors and site builders to easily and quickly create visual layouts and customizing how you display content. They can customize how content is arranged on a single page, or they can customize it across all content of a content type, which is what we can see in this GIF right here, is how you can arrange content type called article and place different fields in different regions, so that you basically can customize the layout of the entire content type. But the main focus for today will be on building landing pages and not on this specific thing we are looking at here. Landing pages can be several things. Maybe it's the next slide. Yes, that's, yeah. It can be many things, like campaign pages. It can be the landing page that you advertise for on Google AdWords. Could be the history about our company page, but maybe the most famous landing page of them all could be, for example, the front page of a web page.
So, designing for landing pages. And designing landing pages can be lots and lots of fun. There are so many things that you can add here. Of course, you have a lot of requests from our clients, so like custom blocks that they wish to have, but also with all the layouts available or on all the standard blocks that we use, there's lots of fun to do when you are doing the design process here. Normally, when I design for clients, I tend to do 2 sketches mainly, just to showcase what you can do with the layout builder or for the landing pages. One is the front page, of course, and the other one is a campaign, or sometimes like inspiration page, something blog-like with a bit more information. Across these 2 sketches, I try to showcase all the different content blocks and also show them an ideal or a good example of how to create these pages.
So when Silja has designed some really nice looking landing pages, it's time to also implement these in live site. And the way we usually do that is with Layout Builder, as you probably have understood. This is something that will come later, yes. So first, I just want to reiterate over what Silja said. It's that the typical requirements for a landing page would be that you want to be able to add different types of content to it that Silja has showcased in the design. Could be images, slideshows, for some reason people like that, videos or text in different layouts. And you want the content to be responsive, meaning it should look good on all different types of screens and devices with no extra work required for the editor. And the editor should be able to edit all of these elements and the content of the elements. And the editor should be able to easily compose the elements of the page. So if we examine that compared to Layout Builder, here is a typical starting point for us, is to create a content type called landing page, where we enable Layout Builder, and then we get this tab on the content where we can add different sections first, and after that different blocks to the different sections. And I think we can go to the next slide. Yes, these are the requirements. Here are more, what should I say, old school way of creating nodes in Drupal, where you have fields for the different types of content you want to add. This can be somewhat transparent for the editor, where they know that videos go here and images go there, but it's very strict in the way where it's placed, for example, or maybe even in the format where, how it's displayed. But with Layout Builder, we can do this more easily. Here we have an example from one of our clients, Lille School, where you can see that they can add different types of content. Here we're adding a video, and we can add other types of content. For example, a comment about the actual video we just added, because it is nice. And it's very user-friendly for the editors, and they can even edit it right in place and see how it looks compared to the old form-based version of node editing. The next requirement is about responsive design. This is an example from one of our clients, Krammerhuset, where they have composed a more complex layout with almost masonry grid system, where we can see that they don't have to think about the different breakpoints and how it will look on different devices, because we can utilize the grid system we use in the rest of the page and use that in the layouts that we provide to them. In theory, of course, you can add this type of content in a regular article as well, but it's a lot more technical to be able to add all of that markup and the grid system directly in the HTML. And the last point of the technical requirements that I listed earlier was that the editor should be able to compose the different elements easily and edit them easily. Here's one example from Haugenbok, another client of us, from one of our clients, yes. And we can see it's very easy to rearrange the blocks, and although I don't show it here, you can also, of course, edit the blocks right in place there. So it's a drag and drop interface with the Layout Builder. So, and this is probably where Layout Builder stands out from other more traditional solutions, is that editors enjoy the drag and drop interface and the Ajax updating of the content.
Editor sucks. Destroying my design using stupid colors and composing ugly landing pages. Or do they? I feel like I have to explain this one, but as you might understand, this is what this session is all about. When we have, oh, I've heard some feedback here. When I have delivered the design and we've implemented it and given the editors all the tools that they need, and if we don't give them the proper instructions, it might not be as pretty as expected, at least in the eyes of the designer. Keep in mind that the editors would perhaps have all the colors available, all the layouts available, and a bit too much freedom, at least to be able to keep within the restrictions that the design was intended for. So I have an example. This is the design that we saw earlier, and imagine that we go live around now, and then goes a couple of weeks where the editors got some time to try out this new tool, and they decide to create some Christmas-related content, and they wish to make the whole page a bit more Christmassy. They have the ability to change the products and images that they display, but they could also perhaps have the ability to add some background colors and, whoops, And suddenly we have a green background and red titles and a lot of content that does not follow the design at all. In addition to these more visual things that we have here, we could also end up with pages with multiple H1 tags, because of course the editors want to have these big nice titles, and how else could they achieve that? And we also have this perhaps more famous issue with adding contents in text fields. For example, the table. For developers, this is quite a known issue that the tables can be problematic to scale down. For our content editors, that's not something they would know. And we end up with a table that is half visible on mobile phones and tablets. Another thing that might also be a problem while scaling down or on responsive design is the videos, where the width of the video could be hard-coded, so it does not show properly. So that is why we need to teach them properly.
Yes, and that's why we also have technical solutions to avoiding that the designs break when editors run amok, as you very nicely put it. So the first and most obvious solution to making sure that they don't run amok is to take away the possibility of making bad decisions. And one such example would be that you can't have a table in a text field that we saw earlier, because that's a bad idea. But what we are thinking is that you don't actually take away things that break things. You take away everything, and then you add back the flexibility or the editability, if you like, of the things that you actually need. For example, if you had a perfectly designed homepage, you could say that this is not supposed to be edited, but because then you will probably break the design. But let's say that you can be allowed to, for example, just edit the title. Then you have added some flexibility, but you have avoided that they are destroying the design. And then we can add back flexibility little by little. And I think that's the next slide. Is it? Yes, as Silja said earlier, if we just add the back little by little, making it available to edit titles, that's fine, but not making it available to edit background colors, for example. So our solution to this problem is, as the title of this talk suggests, three things: limitation, education, and discipline. And I think the next one is an illustration of limitation. I don't remember exactly what I searched for, but I think it's relevant to limitation. So one example of, yeah, I think we have the next slide. When we're talking about limitation is different aspects of it. It's that we want to limit the types of blocks that they actually, two blocks that they actually need, so they don't end up creating wacky designs. And we want to limit the colors that they can use, so that they can, for example, be within a color scheme. And we want to limit the types of blocks that they can place within certain layouts, so things always look good on all devices. And one example of the first point here is using the module Layout Builder Restrictions. It's a module that we created back in the day, and it's now maintained by us at New Media and the University of Texas at Austin. And here's a quick example of different settings for that module. we can see it extends the manage layout page to make it possible to say that in general, I want these and these blocks available. I never want these blocks available. And you can also see that you can limit it within a region within a layout. So for example, if you want to limit that on a 3-column layout, you can only place certain things in the first column. You can also do that. So this makes it possible to make sure that they don't end up creating wacky designs. For example, that would make it possible to avoid that they add the videos in the first column of 4-column layout, because that would, for example, go outside of the column borders. Yes. The next part is education. This is an illustration of education, of course. We teach layout builder and military strategy to cats. So this is just it's actually a recording from one of our education sessions, I think. Some points about education is it's a faceted thing. It's that we as employees and consultants to our clients can use the same way of creating landing pages for our different clients. So it's recognizable across projects, so that a person working in new media on one project can recognize the approach taken in another project when we jump to other projects. And the education part is also to make sure our client understand the reason behind these choices and the consequences of the different choices. One such example could be that well, it's very easy to understand the reason why you can't have a video in the first column of 4-column layout, for example, but it might be harder to understand why you can't have tables inside of a text field. So if they, for some reason, are very, very interested in having that, we have to educate them of the consequences of having that choice and their responsibility as editors when using tables, for example. And the third part of the title of the talk is discipline. I think this is a picture of Thomas, our CEO. I'm not sure, but it's an illustration of discipline. Discipline is also multifaceted. Discipline is about making sure that every new landing page element meets different types of requirements. Accessibility, that is, design, flexibility, and responsiveness. So this is a type of discipline that applies to the developers. We want to create the elements in such a way that we don't make it possible to make bad accessibility elements or, as I said, create wacky designs. But at the same time, for the client, it should be flexible enough so that they can kind of be creative when they create content, and of course it should be responsive. And on the same note, we as developers should strive for flexibility, but at the same time make it either hard or at best impossible to use the element in such a way that it destroys the design or in other ways can be misused. And the third part is that we should make sure that either in-house across projects we can reuse the same elements or share on Drupal.org, even though we are creating elements for tailor-made pages or a specific store for one of our clients. Yes, I think that was the last slide.
That is the last slide.
Yes. So, questions?
Any questions?
First of all, thanks a lot. Great work. Anything in the YouTube stream, Fredrik? No questions there. It seems like you explained it well.
Must be very good illustrations.
It was the gifts.
It was the gifts.
Yes.
Oh, not only that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
One about
Maybe-
paragraphs.
Maybe you have to come closer to the microphone.
Yeah. So I have a question with the paragraphs in the layout builder. So what do you recommend for new users or new beginners? Should we use paragraphs or should we just use the layout builder? Do you have any tips?
Well, we have ended up using paragraphs. Sorry, layout builder. Because of personal preference, and also that's kind of the feedback that we have gotten from the few clients that have tried paragraphs. That layout builder is more easy to work with, but I guess it depends on the type of editors. I think paragraphs probably is more for what should I say, experienced editors or more technical editors. That's my personal opinion anyway. But I guess for a beginner editor, I would say layout builder. For a beginner developer, probably the same. My opinion, at least. Do you have any opinion?
I have to say I haven't tried paragraphs because before Drupal 8 we were using panels in Drupal 7, which layout builder is based on, as mentioned. So I can't recommend that because I haven't tried it. So.
Thank you. We have one more question here from Oslo.
Yeah. Let me just ask the Gutenberg question. It would be interesting just to hear your thoughts on pros and cons of layout builder versus Gutenberg generally. Why not use Gutenberg? Let's put the question that way.
I think, well, for us, it's actually a question of when we started using layout builder, because we were very early starting with that before Gutenberg was really an option. So that's maybe the main reason, because we have invested in it. But I think also for me personally, I think it depends on your team actually, because creating custom blocks for Gutenberg is something that requires a different skill set than creating a custom block for layout builder. And if your team is more fluent in React, then it's definitely a good way to go. And if you're a PHP heavy team, then maybe layout builder could be the way to go. But yeah, I see pros and cons with both things. But Gutenberg is certainly a great product.
What about just from a purely functional point of view, development aside? Maybe layout builder is a bit easier to be more strict or keep them from running amok in one sense. I don't know, what's your thought on that? I think because that's that's a problem on every page builder, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I did not look into the restriction part of Gutenberg that much, I must say, but I'm assuming that it's possible to do something similar there. And I also know that out of the box, probably Gutenberg gives you a shitload of options that you don't need. As is the case with Layout Builder, it's I would almost say completely useless out of the box because there's so many blocks that you can place around on the page, and just doing some work around limiting options is probably a good idea in both cases, but I don't have any experiences if it's easier or harder with Gutenberg. Maybe you do. So yeah, it's certainly easy with the layout builder, that's for sure.
Thank you. And there's one more question here from Durs.
I have another question. Well, I haven't used layout build myself, but I only use the paragraph. But just wondering about the universal design to adapt how you can use this layout build. Do you have some criteria that be from VCG? GDPR.
Can it cover the criteria by the GDPR?
Can it cover the criteria by the GDPR?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Okay, so is it a two-part question? First, it was about accessibility, right? And then GDPR?
I just
So this is about universal design. If it's possible to use it to adapt it, so it can concur with the criteria for universal design by GDPR.
Well, it's certainly a way to enforce content creators to create universal design, I would say. For example, if you're using a text editor like CK editor, you can do many different things to make bad universal design decisions. And if you kind of enforce the content to be created within Layout Builder, you can say that the elements placed and the text placed can be edited by the editors, but the markup and all the things around it can be not something that you can choose to ignore. So I would say that it's possible to use it as a way to ensure that your content has good accessibility. But it's of course, as with all other parts of accessibility in content creation, it's also very much a matter of educating the content creators, I would say.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have one question too from Frank. When you have these blocks that you put in the layout, can you can they be different depending on what layout you put them into, or will they have the same markup and be exactly the same? Do they know about the context they are in?
It's possible, yes. I don't think we utilize that much. I think we use that for the magazine that we saw demo.
Yes, if it's about which node type they're in, it's like that. Or did you mean like what kind of layouts the blocks are in?
Yeah, so if you have one block that you put in like a full width or full column, you will have a slightly different markup than if you put it in a 4-column grid.
Yeah, it's something you can customize in the for example, in the template for the block, if you choose to expose that. Yes.
Yeah.
It's also possible to have settings on the layout or on the block. So for example, you could set there's a module called Layout Builder Styles, so you could set classes on the layouts themselves, for example, so that one 2-column layout should have an extra class, and inside of one of those 2 columns, one of the blocks should have an extra class. So you can actually customize them in the interface as well if you want to expose that.
Yeah. So you can make one block that have different variants based on the context.
That's possible, yes.
Yeah. Cool.
That's good. Any more questions? I guess we say no to that because I see now that we are slightly behind the schedule. So we should move over to you, Håvard. Are you available there?
I'm here.
Yeah, that sounds very good. Glad to see you again, Håvard.
Yes. Just
so
presentation up.
Yeah, you can share your screen and just get started. We are still streaming. So well, we saw you earlier today. Silje, do you have anything to add while shares?
I thought we could do like we did with the last one, where Håvard presented himself.
Perfect. Håvard, please start when you are ready. Looking forward to your session.
Yes, so I'm still Håvard Thoresen, works at the Norwegian Digitalization Agency. And this talk will be about using ID-porten in Drupal with the OpenID Connect module. So I'll start with some basics about OpenID Connect, what that is. It's a simple identity layer that is built on top of the OAuth 2 protocol, and it enables clients to verify the identity of the end user based on the authentication that is performed by an authorization server. That enables you to leave the authentication process to a trusted third party. That could be Google or Twitter for that matter. And it also enables a single sign-on, so that the user only signs on once and is then automatically signed into the various services they are trying to use. The authorization flow is illustrated in this figure. The user starts by attempting to log into some service. Is the relaying party in the figure here. The user is then redirected to the OpenID provider to authenticate themselves. And after the successful authentication, they are sent back to the service with a token that proves that they are authenticated. And finally, the service validates that the token is indeed genuine before completing the login. The OpenID Connect module enables users to log in to Drupal with OpenID Connect. By default, it includes plugins for Facebook, GitHub, Google, and LinkedIn, as well as a generic plugin that can be configured to use any other OpenID providers. Or you can make your own plugin, which is what I'll be showing a bit later. Then go over to ID-porten, which is a common login solution for public services in Norway. That could be, for instance, Altinn, where we deliver our tax returns, or for education portals, deciding what schools you want to attend for the following year. And it provides the end user with several two-factor login solutions that all have a very high confidence in who the user actually is. Because these are all tied to your personal identification number, födselsnummer. These system integrators only need to integrate with ID-porten in order to get access to all of these specific login methods. Compared to Facebook and Google and the rest, they cannot really guarantee that the user is who they claim to be. As anyone can create an account, and thus you're not really sure if it's an actual human or maybe the neighbor's cat who's trying to log in. So, yeah. So moving on to how to create a ID-porten plugin for the OpenID Connect module. You'll start with creating a class for the plugin, extending the generic plugin that is already provided with the module. Add some annotation to let Drupal be able to find the plugin. And then you need to override a couple of functions, primarily because ID-porten doesn't provide a user email. So we have to handle that so that Drupal can actually create the user. Additionally, you will need to have completed some formal steps in order to actually use ID-porten. Those I won't be covering those. So going over again, create the plugin class and add the necessary annotation and extending the generic client. And the namespace is, as usual, the same as the folder structure. Then we override the authorize function and remove the email scope. It doesn't make sense to ask for something that the service doesn't provide. And then we override the retrieve user info function to set a fictional email address on the user. An alternative would be to provide a pre-login step where the user provides their email address before you initiate the login via ID-porten. And finally, when Drupal sees the plugin, you can configure it with the client ID and a secret and the various endpoints that are needed by the OpenID Connect protocol. And that should be it. So, any questions?
Thank you again, Håvard. Very good. Do we have any questions there on in the stream? Not yet. Feel free to think about that for a few seconds at least. Let's see here.
Maybe one question?
Yeah, there's one question here.
Is there any difference regarding security levels there? For example, security level 3, 4, would there be any differences in implementation?
Not really. You can, I think in the authorize function, you can request what security level you desire. And that will limit the list that is available of the various login methods. Not all of them are at the highest security level.
Thank you. All right. I actually would like to quickly share my screen. Because I mentioned before this session that we would like to get some feedback from you all about the current DrupalCamp. 1 second, I will share a window. On the same page that you find information about how to join streaming and joining digitally, we have now added a link to a Google form where you can give some feedback on the current camp and the setup that we have had so far. And also some ideas and thoughts on how we can improve for next year's DrupalCamp. And that's very valuable for us. It's basically very hard for us to improve in the right direction if we don't get feedback from all of you. It should only take you a couple of minutes, I believe. And we will actually draw 2 lucky winners that will get a 1-year subscription to Drupalize Me after in a week or so. But it would be great if you could do it right away, so we have some fresh info on how the camp is going. So yeah, and also then thank you so much to Drupalize Me. That gives us a couple of years of subscriptions to what I would say is the Drupal standard of get going with Drupal and the insights there. So yeah, that would be great. I can hear you all, sharing and being very happy about that. So looking forward. Yay! Yeah, great. Okay, so we've had our last session. Again, thank you so much, Håvard, and all of the other presenters for this camp. Now we're soon entering sprints. So we will start that softly in about 15 to 30 minutes, I suppose. Feel free now, everyone, if you're following the stream or wherever you might be, please jump straight into this presenter's Google Meet. You will find a link on the same page I just showed you. The more the better. You don't have to be there with your microphone and video on at all times, but it would be great to see some faces and talk a bit. So we'll stay connected here from Oslo, and some of us will probably work a few hours throughout the afternoon. Feel free to stay for as long as you would like. And then when we start, Truls will help us to get started. Yeah. Okay. So we'll just stay on here. And first, thank you all. Let's just give an extra applause to every presenter that's been here so far and the people that has made this possible. Yeah. also big thanks to our sponsors. See you after a short break. So if there are people out there still following the stream, just saying that we'll shut off the actual streaming from the DrupalCamp now. But please go to drupalcamp.no, and there you'll find information about how to join the Google Meet for the sprint. There are people there right now, and will also be there available time throughout the afternoon. So thank you all.